The other side is brainwashed.
I would say,
agreeers, please step forward.
I would say not every person from each side is brainwashed, but a plenitude of people are.
Brainwash is a strong word, but I also obviously step forward. I was raised Muslim. I'm Iranian. My mom's side of the family, especially a lot of Iranians, they felt like they just had to become Muslim to obviously like adhere, and it's extreme what they're doing in Iran. Obviously, I'm not comparing, but I guess with Brainwash, I also went to an Islamic school, so my really devout Muslim friends, it feels like brainwash. I have a friend who's hijabi, and I just like, for her, it feels like it wasn't a choice kind of vibe. It's just something you should do because of your family and because of the religion. But then she's also super devout Muslim. It's just a hairy topic.
Can the disagreeers please step
coercion?
Her, it feels like it wasn't a choice kind of vibe. It's just something you should do because of your family and because of the religion. But then she's also super devout Muslim. It's just a hairy topic.
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree in the fact that brainwash is a very strong word, like you said, yet you still step forward. I'm not familiar with anyone on this set, so for me to call someone that I don't know brainwashed, I would feel that is pretty disrespectful.
I agree. I concur. You don't know that person from a can of paint.
Why their lifestyle is
that preconception, that prepossession, that prejudgment is not sagacious to jump to conclusions before you have a conversation with somebody. Like to assume somebody is brainwashed just because. Like, yeah, bro, that's crazy.
Forward. I'm not familiar with anyone on this set.
It would be
for me to call someone that I don't know brainwashed, I would feel that is pretty disrespectful, especially not knowing where they came from, what their beliefs are, why their lifestyle is the way that it is. So I don't really see how that kind of goes.
It's beneficial.
I just think any kind of philosophy that doesn't encourage you to ask questions, to challenge it, to seek further truth, I think that should automatically kind of be a little bit of a red flag to kind of say this is the one truth and everybody else might be
tyranny,
getting maybe closer or further from the truth.
Despotism.
So while I see where
despotism, I meant to say.
I don't
this is the one truth, and everybody else might be getting maybe closer or further from the truth.
So while I see where you're coming from, I don't agree that people are brainwashed because I do not want to disrespect your experience. I think it may seem a certain way, but it might not be the truth for everybody. And I also want to touch up on you talked about how you can't question something. I think for me, for years, I really struggled with my faith. I don't remember being a child and praying because I have to pray, but praying because I felt like there were repercussions that I have to face if I didn't pray. And it wasn't until I got to leave my house and go to college and experience Islam on my own that I had a good association with it. But I also believe that Islam is one of the religions that does encourage questioning. It says if you have doubts, I will have answers. I just wanted to make a note. This is maybe it's my personal experience. Growing up Muslim, and I went to an Islamic academy. I was hijabi after 4th grade. You have to be. And I had religion class every day. And I will just say, I feel like every question I had is met with because the Quran says so. That's it. I date someone who's has no background in Islam or didn't grow up that way. You're gonna get met with because the Quran says so, because Allah means so, and that is why.
The reason that I disagree that the other side is brainwashed is because I think for the other side to be brainwashed, there would have to be one specific truth, one version of Islam that no one can question and everyone accepts as the truth. I think that one truth doesn't exist and that different people believe in different versions of Islam. So because a lot of Muslims, including Muslim scholars, have been coming to different interpretations, and if you were brainwashed, you would not be able to come to that difference of opinion. You would simply follow what the scholars of the past said.
Hi, I'm Jade, and and I'm a member of the Middle Ground Patreon, and I was chosen to read the next topic.
Unquestioning
Women and men are equal in the
means
eyes
leap.
of Allah.
I think a lot of people misconstrue about Islam, and when they say that women are mistreated in Islam, it just comes from the fact that men and women were created for different purposes, and that doesn't mean that one holds more value.
No gender is inferior or superior.
Better.
As an atheist, now I still hold that Islam does
equal,
come
but
from
different.
a feminist place. You see women in positions of leadership, so despite
Equal as
you know,
in
being on this
they're
side,
equally important. They're equally important, but they have different roles.
I still hold that Islam does come from a feminist place.
I think certain Muslim women
despite
do receive
being on this
mistreatment.
side, I still
True mistreatment.
appreciate that Islam has that perspective.
I grew up overseas. I grew up in Bangladesh, and growing up in a country that seemed like a lot of
Shout
things
out to
are not fair for women.
Bangladesh.
A lot of things are not fair for minorities. And I think I struggled with that thought.
Shout out to
men and women
Iran too.
equal in the eyes
Iran.
of Allah, then why does this
That's
exist? And what I realized as I grew older was that we're also living in a society. So I definitely have to face the repercussions of like other people and the social construct that we have, right?
The systems outside of it.
Yeah, the system outside of it. So like our experiences are a product of like what we believe in, and but also like our position within the system. And I won't put the fact that like society sees women as not equal onto God and onto my religion, because that's not what religion is meant to be. And I'm not going to say that Islam does not believe that women and men are not equal.
Zoom might have started as a video conferencing app, but now team chat, phone, whiteboard,
Believe that women and men are not equal.
This was one of the biggest topics that caused me to really doubt my faith. Looking at the Quran, looking at the authentic hadith, and also just from historical records as well, men are allowed to have sex with female slaves.
That's crazy.
And
That's horrible. That's horrible. That is indubitably horrible.
Prohibited to men are married women except for what your right hand possesses. And your right hand possessions refers to female slaves.
Wow.
And we see multiple hadith of instances where the men have just defeated the tribe, they have female war captives, and Muhammad allowed them to have sex with them.
Wow.
And that's probably going to be rape.
That's
Because what
detestable.
woman would be consenting to sex in that situation?
No,
I think too, like just thinking
female
about
would
the
be
Quran and
consenting
like upbringing,
in that situation.
every day. The two biggest ones that stand out to me would be like the issue of the hijab, which I know a lot of people will counter. So the Quran says women have to cover the khimar to cover up so that they don't tempt the men. And then I will say the Quran does technically say men's hijab is their gaze, the male gaze, and that just seems a little silly to me. Beyond that, like in the Quran, how men can have up to 4 wives, but women can't. It's like in the Islamic school, I want to say the azan, call to prayer. All the boys in my class, they're like, we're going to do the call to prayer for this Friday. I'm ineligible because I'm a woman, apparently. Can't do the azan. I can't do the call to prayer. So just those, I would say, are my Quran-specific examples. And they're like, well, this is to protect women. I don't see that at all.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different points that you brought up. The first one being the hijab, which the woman is obligated to wear. And you talked about how the men have to lower their gaze, which is 100% right. The women also have to lower their gaze, and the men actually have their own hijab. So the men have their own parts of their body that needs to be covered as well. So obviously, men and women were created both physically different, psychologically, all different types of, they're different in every single way. There's different parts of the body that needs to be covered because men are attracted to different things, women are attracted to different things, and it's to protect both sides. The second thing that you brought up, I believe you mentioned you not being able to make the call to prayer. Once again, that's in order to protect the women, just because men can also be attracted to the voice of women. So that's the reason that that's not allowed. And I completely understand that you being a young child, that's something that you wanted to do. And I mean, pre-puberty, in your household, with your family, that's something that you should feel free to practice. Make the call to prayer. Do that in front of your father, your brothers, your uncles. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be in front of the whole entire mosque. So there may be things that you felt because you were a woman, you were being limited to, but there's a benefit behind it. So it's about looking into that.
I think this is bringing up an important point of contention here with all the things that you're saying, and you keep bringing up that men and women are fundamentally different. Where is that coming from?
Where is what coming from?
When you say those things.
When I say what?
Men and women are fundamentally different in these very specific ways. Men are attracted to a woman's voice.
Okay, so scientifically, men and women are different. So if you were just
There's
look at
clear
men
biological
women,
differences.
I'm pretty sure I would see some differences, as well as just scientifically, biologically, emotionally, psychologically.
we all
studies
could
because
agree on
everyone
that.
started to question you being able to change your sex and be able to change your gender, but you were created as a certain sex for a reason, and each.
So that's my point of contention here. There's nothing for me there. When you say that I was created for a specific purpose and a woman was created for a specific purpose, I would disagree completely. Why can't I fulfill those other purposes? When you start slowly building upon these layers of like roles, that prescriptive roles, that starts to create a system of oppression.
Not automatically. I see what he's saying, but not automatically. Traditional gender roles.
I would say
not everything is oppression.
It is also an interpretation as much as there's merit to
certain
it.
things are
my hair and
do
my face
truly
for me
epitomize
so
abuse,
that people see my
but not
personality.
everything.
I would say that his
It
view
depends.
of it is also an interpretation as much as there's merit to it. Covering my hair and my face for me was so that people see my personality and my intellect
the
before
internal
they see
qualities.
my beauty or they see the things that they're attracted to.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
in my culture, I'm ethnically black, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously. Our hair is very different from other races, and we go to great lengths to assimilate. And that was something that I personally struggled with before converting. So for me, it helped me gain confidence. I would be worried about how does my face look? Is there something on my face? Or some of your communication is also in your facial expression. So when you can't see some of it, you have to kind of, use your imagination a little bit. I like that mysteriousness. I like that, especially other men don't have that access because I'm a fiance. I like that there's only one person who can see these parts of me.
The hidden parts.
And that's what makes it special in a way. So the roles for men and women, it's not entirely just because I want you to do it because I said so.
Modesty is laudable. Modesty should not be demonized.
To your point, that Allah actually says in the Quran that la ikrah fi din, like there's no compulsion in religion. So when you say that, why can't I?
If a man is forcing, if a man is truly tyrannical, then that's bad. But not everything is tyranny.
It's probably because it's to your benefit. If you look
it's point that Allah actually says in the Quran that
modesty is wise.
That's what makes it special in a way.
There
so
won't
the
be
roles for men and women,
unwanted
it's not entirely
attention,
just because I want you to do it because
negative
I said
attention
so.
from
It's
certain
probably
guys.
Because it's to your benefit. If you look
to your point that Allah actually says in the Quran that
modesty leads to good outcomes.
In a way. So the roles for men and women, it's not entirely just because I want you to do it because I said so. It's probably because it's to your benefit. If you look
to your point that
I see
Allah
both sides
says in the
though.
Quran that la ikrah fi din, like there's no compulsion in religion. So when you say that, why can't I do X, Y, Z? Like, why can't I do the other role, for example, right? These are things that, because Allah expects you to, these are things best for you, but it's not that you can't do these things.
But when you say it's best for
precluded,
it's not that you're precluded. There's always going to be an existential threat.
Saying it's best for you because it's what's best for society. So everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in place for us, and we believe God, the reason that we have these specific, if you want to say, roles, because men complement women in a certain way and women complement men in a certain way.
they both complement each other.
Let me explain this. Let me give you a very easy way to understand it. I'll use her point, right? So you mentioned that, for example, why can you not marry 4 husbands and why can I marry 4 wives, right? These things have less to do with equality or worthiness in the eyes of Allah and just individual sex differences. For example, if I have 4 wives, right, I can impregnate all of them and we'll all
proliferate, multiply.
If you, for example, in this scenario, you have 4 husbands, we won't actually know who the father is. And also,
why is that important? Why would that happen?
And how does that make men and women equal in the eyes of Allah? Like that's what that's telling
so
you.
I'm saying we're equal, but we're different.
I think
that's facts.
To do with equality.
2 genders are equal but different.
Individual sex differences. For example, if I have 4 wives, right, I can impregnate.
I don't think automatically if a woman has 4 husbands that
if you,
she won't know who the father is. She might not want to have children by all four. She might just want to have children by solely one.
And how does that make men and women equal in the eyes of
I hope that makes
Doctors
sense. Let me know
if
that makes sense.
I think
knowing of the
And
father
that's just
there.
reducing women to the sole purpose of reproduction.
I don't think it's that. Men, you can impregnate someone every day, and women, we kind of have to stay pregnant for a while, and I feel like there would be like a mix up with
I understand what you're saying,
like
but these are
genetics, like if it was just one man.
I think there's pros and cons of both.
A bunch of women, you
think
could have a
candidly,
society.
I understand what you're saying, but these are such narrow, like, what about is these are such narrow circles.
So let me ask you a question.
No, but
I'm sorry, I want to hear from Atia and Janet as well.
I think also here's just a food for thought, and I can guess the answer. Why don't y'all wear a hijab? Like, why can't men wear a hijab?
They are.
So I'm currently in hijab, right?
No, I mean on your head. You have heads. Women have heads.
So you consider that you're basically calling a hijab a headscarf. That's not what a hijab is.
Okay. I mean, Janet.
And once again, we already said that the hijab for men and women is different because we're both created physically different. So obviously the hijab for both of them is going to be
That
different.
statement is not
And
really
then once again, you're implying that the hijab is oppressive to women. So that's what you're implying when you're saying that why can't men do it? Because do you believe
It's not
that the hijab is
automatically oppressive, but it can be.
The deepest
It
depths
can
of my
be.
soul,
That's
yes.
the
I
truth.
understand it can be a choice. I do believe it's
by you agreeing that, or by you saying that the hijab is oppressive to women, is actually disrespectful to our women in the religion, because you're either implying that these women can't think for themselves and that they're just wearing this hijab because
That's not what I mean at all.
No, I think, or you're saying that we're all forcing every single woman in the religion to wear this, and we're throwing this on their head.
No, I think we need to acknowledge how
No, I'm saying that's what you're. That's what you're by saying that the women are being oppressed in the religion. That's because they have to wear the hijab.
It's not black and white.
Can I jump in here and ask? So these justifications that we were saying for hijab, do these justifications really still have solid ground when we consider that the hijab was for only one class of women, free women? Slave women didn't wear hijab, and because men were allowed to have sex with slave women, they were being sexualized and objectified when Muslim men were considering whether they're going to purchase them.
Yeah, let me answer that. So to address your slavery point, I'll get on that in a sec, all right? But the point that you're asking, if we were really equal, how could that be? And you were asking if we all had hijab, why do you have to cover your head with a khimar and I don't, right? A very simple example is if I expect a man and a woman to lift the heavy load, but the same load, that would be unequal, right? So we have to look at it as equality or equity. So what is equal in the eyes of Allah for a man is not going to be the same treatment for a woman. And I'm sure we understand that if there are differences in our sex, then there has to be difference in expectations and loads.
Maybe historically, but we live in a time where a lot of what you're saying just isn't relevant.
So
I'm not going to be found in a situation.
Thank you. I would love to wrap this up, and I would love it if the women would wrap it up.
I will say I feel like it's very rooted in when it comes to covering up. For example, it's to protect you, and if you are dressed immodestly, they might react a certain way. They're attracted to your voice. I just have to say, I am a lesbian, and I am not tempted by, like, in my mind, I don't see a woman walking down the street immodestly, and it's not rooted in equality. Like the prompt said, Allah sees both men and women as equal, and I don't hear that, honestly, at all.
What you're saying
Things are saying.
Thank you. I would love we're going to keep going, and all of this is going to build on each other. I would really love to hear from Atia.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. There are a couple points I want to touch up on. I really appreciate the uncomfortable things that you brought up in this conversation, and I loved how a lot of you guys didn't respond. I couldn't respond myself, and then she brought up a point, and then everyone kind of jumped onto that because that's something you guys could respond to. And I think there are uncomfortable things that especially us as women have questioned that a lot of times don't get answered. And then I also want to say you brought up a point, or we were talking about what she said was disrespectful to Muslim women. That's not true because women around the world have different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
There are women who are being forced to wear hijab. You can't disregard somebody's life experience and be like, no, you don't live in that social area. You could live like this.
Mm-hmm.
When you're part of a system that you don't have that same level of openness to, it's hard to be it's hard to see that,
It is impossible to live a 100% pure Islamic life in modern society.
Join our Ground Patreon to watch this exclusive prompt.
I have lost relationships because of my current religious beliefs.
relationships that I've lost would be relationships that I probably shouldn't have been in the first place. Once I became more strong in my faith, I had to cut those people off.
Yeah.
So those are only relationships that I've lost. Yes, it hurt maybe at the time.
Yeah.
But
sometimes the toughest decisions are the best decisions.
In a different sense than losing contact with them, but the relationship I lost with them is that I'm unable to be my true self around
self-betrayal, self-sabotage.
That relationship is with my mother. It's the reason why I'm in this ridiculous outfit today. Because if my mother ever found out that her only child is gonna go to hell forever because he left this man, it's gonna hurt her so badly. I saw myself how much it hurt my mom when I was talking openly about my doubts in Islam in high school. It was causing her like literal depression. The reason I continue to pretend and I don't really have the bravery to come out and be my true self around her is because she's the best mom I could have ever asked for. She worked so hard to raise me. She sacrificed so much to give me a really happy childhood. And the idea that I will be showing her that all her hard work was for nothing because her child is going to burn in hell forever. I can't hurt her like that again, like I hurt her in the past. She doesn't deserve to be hurt. She deserves to be happy.
I would say I haven't lost any relationships as far as like dating, and I am in contact with my family, but it's actually not because of the difference in religions, because of a plethora of other things. I would say I went to that Islamic academy growing up, and I seen y'all good energy, man. With my life, I had the best friends. Honestly. When I went to a secular school, I'm from a conservative area, so I was the only Iranian, so they were bullying me for being hairy. And then when I went to the Islamic Academy, I didn't have that problem anymore. It wasn't until when I went to high school and I'm like distancing myself from Islam that a lot of people from our local community just kind of like, there's whispers of, oh, Janet's family is hypocrites. She's a whore because I don't dress modestly as they like me to, et cetera, et cetera. I've lost a lot of, I would say, my Muslim friends from school.
Thank you for sharing, guys. I also want to say, I think I have a very similar experience with you. I would say that there were quite a few years in my life when I was really, really questioning my faith, but also like the way I grew up and what was like, I would say, forced upon me. And it was really hard because I felt like not myself because of how conservative my family was. As I grew older, we just started becoming like separated because of their viewpoints, and as they grew older, they became more and more religious, and to a point where I felt like sometimes, like if I'm trying to like share my feelings, something like that's really difficult, and I've gone through like very difficult situations in my life. I've been met with like so many religious things. I felt like misunderstood by my siblings a lot when I was questioning my religion. I felt like I had to keep that secret, and it wasn't until and then my high school career where like I was sitting with my best friend who is very Muslim and one of the best people I've ever met.
That's what's up.
I shared, she was like the first person I shared with. It took so much courage to share that. And then she said, you're not horrible for questioning your religion.
You are not a devil.
And I think that changed my life. And I think
that's what I would say to anyone that's like watching this video. I would say that to anybody who's like questioning, like, you're just human. That does not make you bad. And like, especially if you're Muslim and you're like afraid of like what Allah thinks of you, Allah does not think of you badly.
So I just think I'm in a pretty privileged position. My dad's half Jewish, but baptized Catholic. My stepmom was raised Southern Baptist.